Oh man, I had beef with NWA. Yeah, we had beef. Above the law, we had beef.
Ice Cube is not the man you think you know. The legendary West Coast rapper and actor, once celebrated for his fearless voice and groundbreaking music, now faces a reality far more complex than the fame and power he earned. From diss tracks that shook the industry to public statements that almost broke the internet, his journey has been filled with controversy and conflict. How did a boy from South Central become a figure so misunderstood? Can the legendary rapper ever escape the controversies that follow him? Join as we uncover what really happened to Ice Cube, the boy from South Central Los Angeles. For a lot of people, it's the American dream. But with Ice Cube, it's a nightmare in a fancy suit.
Heighten everybody's awareness that this problem has been going on since before.
South Central is a famous area that can hold at least 50 addicts. But poverty was a constant. The poverty, however, wasn't the worst thing. The most scary thing about that part of America is that just by looking at the wrong person or saying the wrong thing, tomorrow could be the end. It's a place where children learn to wander aimlessly even before they could learn to speak. Who will teach a child about the future when they have to learn how to survive every afternoon after school? Who still believes in dreams when the whole neighborhood only hears the sound of ambulance sirens instead of lullabies? Well, that's where Ice Cube came from. Since the name Ice Cube is so popular, very few people actually know that his real name is O'Shea Jackson, and he was born in 1969 in a small house in Westmont. Inside the house was ordered, but outside, utter chaos. His father, Hosea Jackson, mowed lawns for the wealthy at UCLA, people he was never allowed to sit at the table with. His mother, Doris, who works at the hospital, believes that discipline is the only shield that can save her son from the world outside. Even though the Jacksons didn't have much, they had principles. Work hard, stay out of trouble, and don't draw attention. Dinner in the house was unsurprisingly always quiet. One would only hear the sound of knives against plates, the ticking of the clock, and a heavy silence that was nearly suffocating. Every journey from school is just like a test of survival. Cube learned how to bow his head and walk quickly, pretending to be invisible because the wrong look could easily cost him his life. Out there, you don't need a reason to hate people. Skin color is enough. But why did he keep quiet when others spoke out? It was not because he was afraid, but because he understood early that no matter what he said, it would be useless in a place where people only like to use their fists. Living like this, Ice Cube began to feel like a shadow, living in a silent house, in a silent neighborhood, in an entire society that just wanted everything to stay quiet. Then it came without warning. His sister, the family's only pride, was caught in a brawl right on the street corner. There was a shove, a scream, and then silence. When the police arrived, they didn't see a girl. They only saw another corpse with a note and a report that no one bothered to read. Cube just stood there, watching the hearse disappear. He heard his mother's breathless wails and saw his father, who he had known only to bow his head his entire life, collapse on the doorstep. And he just stood there, dumbfounded, cold as stone, with many questions. What was the point of staying pure for so many years? How many times had he swallowed his anger and bowed his head? What was the point of all the teachings about not drawing attention now, when people could punish his sister just for a minor conflict? Who would be responsible for that death? Who would remember her? A person disappeared, and society just adjusted its buttons and continued the new day. Cube recalled that he sat in the dark room with his hands trembling.
You know what I mean? It's not funny. He annoys me, so all I gotta do is think about how much he annoys me then.
The paper he was writing on was torn, and the pen was broken. Still, he wrote. No one taught him how to write, but he knew exactly where to strike. The lies, prejudices, and indifference of a country that called itself just. When the pain was too great to cry, he turned it into words. So how did he manage to find his way into music? Finding music. One day, a classmate held up a piece of paper with Cube written on it and read it aloud in the middle of the schoolyard. For some reason, from the first time, Cube no longer felt lost. And from that day on, the pages were no longer a place to vent. They became weapons, From a small house in South Central, a voice blossomed, and that was how he found music. From the small room where he once wrote to survive, Cube stepped into the light. He was no longer the quiet boy from South Central, but the one who carried within him a fire capable of burning away the lies of the entire United States. From the first group called CIA, Cube learned to turn words into rhythm and anger into music. But that was just the prelude. Not long after, he, along with Dr. Dre and Eazy-E, founded NWA, the group the world would later call the Earthquake, from Compton. With Cube as the main songwriter, they didn't sing about parties. They sang about police violence, poverty, and the obvious realities of black people in South Central Los Angeles. In 1998, they released Straight Outta Compton, and America was never the same. The press called them a social threat. The FBI sent a warning letter. But in Compton, people turned their speakers up as loud as they could because, for the first time, they heard their own voices in the music. Those rap lines went beyond mere words of rebellion. The song was a confession. Who wouldn't be outraged to see what deserves to be heard treated as a sin? Who wouldn't shiver when a song can make an entire society tremble? Cube doesn't just make music. He speaks for millions who are forced into silence. And it was at that moment that hip-hop was no longer a genre. It became a weapon. On the cramped stage, Cube looked down at the crowd, shouting his name. They don't see a rapper. They see a warrior with a mic. As they sang along word for word, Cube understood this was no longer music, but collective liberation. Cube had been a crucial part of NWA's rise from the underground in the late 80s, serving as the unofficial lead rapper in the group, and he wrote large swaths of the lyrics on the group's landmark debut, Straight Out of Compton. However, having played such a prominent role in the group's success, Cube didn't feel his input was being reflected financially. In late 1989, he left the group, beginning a long-running dispute with Heller that spilled over into No Vaseline. Particularly, Cube felt Heller was pocketing a disproportionate amount of the group's income, as he attested to in a 1990 interview with Spin when asked why he had left the group. He explained that financial reasons played a major role, as he wasn't being fairly compensated despite contributing to the sale of 3 million albums. Meanwhile, Jerry Heller, NWA's manager, lived in a $500,000 house in Westlake, drove a Corvette and a Mercedes-Benz, while Cube was still living at home with his mother and driving a Suzuki Sidekick. Cube felt that Heller had no creative input into the group. He just made all the decisions and took all the money. But by the end of 1989, when NWA was at its peak, cracks began to appear. Money, power, reputation. Who is more deserving? Who is really behind the group's success? Meetings turned into battlegrounds. That was the beginning of problems. But how did this affect Ice Cube? What did he do? And how did it affect him? Rise as a solo artist. The legendary and notorious West Coast rapper Ice Cube released a song in 1991 called No Vaseline. It is an emphatic, no-holds-barred diss filled with venom. The song sees Cube firing shots at his former bandmates in NWA and their manager, Jerry Heller.
Politics. It was a guy named Jerry Heller. It was the whole divide.
It is actually a personal vendetta, with Cube calling out members of the group, especially his friend Eazy-E and Heller. It touches upon the themes of betrayal, resentment, and exploitation, while demonstrating the group's decline since his departure. In an interview with Hip Hop DX, Cube described leaving NWA as the biggest risk he ever took. However, it looked like a masterstroke in 1990 when he released his critically acclaimed America's Most Wanted, which saw him give gangster rap a more socially and politically conscious edge as he examined ghetto life, drug addiction, racism, and poverty. Cube avoided slagging off his former bandmates on America's Most Wanted, but the recording process led to further animosity with Heller, with Cube revealing in an interview with XXL that he blocked Dr. Dre from working on the album. With the breakup of NWA, the feud became musical in 1990. When NWA fired the first shots on their 1990 track 100 Miles and Runnin', however, this was fairly tame compared to the vitriolic they blasted off on Riel and Neves, where the group painted Cube as a coward and questioned his authenticity and originality. The group also likened Cube to Benedict Arnold, the famous American military officer who defected to the British during the American Revolution, implying he was a traitor. In response, Cube began to pin No Vaseline, outlining in a 2014 interview he intended to blow NWA out of the water. However, No Vaseline wouldn't appear until 1991 as the final track on Death Certificate, despite being recorded during sessions of America's Most Wanted. Despite being universally renowned as a diss track, the single's producer Sir Jinx saw No Vaseline differently, telling people it was only Ice Cube standing up for himself. Jinx was also instrumental in creating a sound that matched the venom of Cub's words, and No Vaseline is primarily built around a sample of the 1970 single Daz by funk and soul band Brick. The relentless bounce perfectly accompanies Cub's insults, and the beat has a hypnotic quality that enhances the venom of Cub's words. The track's intro features several vocal interpolations, including lines from NWA's Cube-bashing interlude, interspersed with Cube's reference taken from his track Turn Off the Radio. The intro sets the scene for the rest of the track, with Cube establishing his grounds for attack almost like he's psyching himself up. Cube suggests NWA has started to decline since his departure, using imaginary vocal snippets from his fans to support his argument. He continues this line of attack in the first verse. He maintains that he saw it coming, saying that's why he went solo. Cube suggests that since he's left, the group has lost its edge and authenticity, becoming commercial pawns rather than pioneers of the street. Furthermore, Cube presents himself as insightful, having the foresight to recognize the group's downfall and leave accordingly. While Eazy-E and Heller serve as the track's primary targets, Cube also fires shots at Dre and DJ Yella. He pours scorn over Yella's ability, implying his presence immediately damages the group while disparaging Dre's abilities as a rapper, essentially telling him to stay in the studio. He goes further, saying that while he may be a traitor, at least he's not letting himself get financially screwed by Eazy. Understandably, considering his reasons for leaving the group, money is a pertinent theme of No Vaseline. Cube derides the group for letting themselves be screwed over by Heller, using violent imagery.
Totally fair with Jerry, and I don't have any axe to grind with that guy at all.
He suggests they are almost like their manager's personal ATM. While the group is suffering financially, Cube is emancipated and flourishing. Cube's anger towards Heller is an overarching theme of No Vaseline, and he resents his control over the group. Cube's insult towards Heller takes on a racial theme, straying into anti-Semitic territory. While the anti-Semitism and murderous encouragement go too far, Cube's rage stems from the fact that the group, who are proud and vital voices of the marginalized and discriminated black community, are letting themselves be suppressed by an old white dude. Unsurprisingly, Cube's remarks courted great controversy. Rabbi Abraham Cooper of the LA Jewish Human Rights Organization, the Simon Wiesenthal Center, criticized the rapper, highlighting the record's potential danger and its advocacy of violence against ethnic minorities during the climate of bigotry in the 1990s. However, the president of Priority Records, Brian Turner, provided a staunch defense of Cube, stating that the allegations were invalid and that Cube's lyrics stemmed from a long-standing feud between Cube, his former group NWA, and the group's manager, Jerry Heller. The track's anti-Semitic slurs contributed to an unfortunate legacy. While Cube's vitriol towards Heller is the track's most explosive element, he was equally critical of Eazy-E, MC Ren, Dr. Dre, and DJ Yella. In Cube's eyes, the group's financial impropriety and close relationship with Heller had undermined their artistic integrity. Betrayal and animosity hang over the whole track, particularly in Cube's accusations toward MC Ren, reflecting the emotional strain and personal history between them. The emphatic nature of No Vaseline, coupled with the gradual disintegration of NWA and Dre's departure in early 1992, ensured there was no comeback for the group. Heller reportedly reacted with fury upon hearing the track, although the accuracy of this reaction is uncertain. Years later, DJ Yella and Dre's responses were limited. and the track did not result in any long-term feud, with collaborations between Cube and former NWA members occurring later, notably on the 1994 single Natural Born Killers. EAS drew the bulk of Cube's contempt, but by 2015, Cube confirmed that relationships with former members had been repaired prior to Eazy-E's death. Despite the initial recriminations, the legacy of No Vaseline remains significant. Cube's son, O'Shea Jackson Jr., gave the track a ringing endorsement in 2021, recognizing its status among the greatest diss tracks of all time. It was finished earlier that year, and Cube himself declared that No Vaseline as one of the greatest diss tracks ever. While his opinion may be biased, the track's aggression and the caliber of the targets it addressed ensure that No Vaseline remains an essential part of hip-hop history. As popular as Ice Cube is, his criticisms are just as famous as he is, and the public is mad at him. But why? Controversy and backlash. Recently, Ice Cube has been active in the news, heavily promoting his role in the upcoming Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film and his Big Three basketball league, as well as celebrating 50 years of hip-hop.
What? Ah! What the? Y'all some little tortoises, huh? Damn!
In addition to his press run, Cube has also recently been the subject of controversial headlines. One thing is certain, the hip-hop legend has never been afraid to speak his mind. But now he may be in trouble as he has received backlash for some polarizing opinions that he expressed in recent interviews. Many people took issue with the platforms on which he appeared, what he actually said during his interviews, and his history of contentious ideologies. Let's see exactly why people are mad at Ice Cube. The recent outrage towards the rapper came from a series of controversial interviews that he conducted. He recently sat down with Tucker Carlson and Piers Morgan for separate meetings where they discussed their political views and opinions. He also met with politicians Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Dennis Kucinich. Ice Cube told Piers Morgan that black people are in the same place as they were in 1865 regarding racial oppression and black ownership in America. He also denounced cancel culture, saying that you have to be willing to fight for your rights and fight for what you believe in. While unafraid of getting canceled, Cube's discussion with Morgan was met with poor reception, as the latter is a polarizing figure in English media, known for his conservative politics and constant slander of Meghan Markle. The meeting that garnered the largest response from fans and casual viewers alike was the one he had with Tucker Carlson. He and Carlson expressed anti-vaccine sentiments in regard to the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as remarks towards politicians with hidden agendas. Cube called the COVID vaccine a rush job and encouraged his children to decline vaccination as well. However, he did not tell anyone publicly not to take the vaccine. The NWA rapper has always stood firmly in his beliefs, but the public shared their views on his controversial interviews on social media. After Ice Cube met with Tucker Carlson and Piers Morgan, people immediately went to X to voice their opinions. His sit-downs with conservative platforms known for racist sentiments greatly surprised his fans, as the West Coast legend built his early career on being outspoken against institutional racism and police brutality. The moment Ice Cube made his statements, he was met with tweets calling him a sellout, likening his political stances to that of Kanye West. Many also expressed disappointment in the rapper for even meeting with Tucker Carlson in the first place. One person tweeted, "I told you Ice Cube is a right-winger." Cube responded to many of these tweets, defending his views. While the backlash was overwhelmingly negative, some defended the rapper, including Chuck D of Public Enemy. However, this is not the first time that people have been critical of Ice Cube's views and beliefs. Many are calling out Ice Cube for going directly against the values that he built his career on. Unfortunately, he has a deep history of making controversial remarks throughout his career. On multiple occasions, he has expressed his beliefs in conspiracies as it pertains to the prison and the music industries. There is also a history of the rapper spewing anti-Semitic rhetoric that goes back as early as 1991, when he aimed lyrics on No Vaseline at his Jewish manager, Jerry Heller. In 2015, a rabbi sued Ice Cube, claiming that his security team assaulted him outside of an MGM casino. The rapper has maintained his innocence and denied assaulting anyone. In 2020, Ice Cube posted a series of tweets with images relating to anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. He also praised Louis Farrakhan, the Nation of Islam leader who is notoriously anti-Semitic and homophobic. Kanye West cited Cube as an inspiration for his anti-Semitic Twitter rants last year, though he distanced himself from West. Kanye later expressed that 21 Jump Street, which Ice Cube starred in, made him like Jewish people again. Ice Cube once met with Donald Trump and received almost the exact same reactions to his most recent meetings with Tucker Carlson and Piers Morgan. Each time that Ice Cube has angered the public, people have called him out for betraying the views that he expressed in his politically charged classics. He continues to remain unwavering in his opinions, vocalizing his beliefs, no matter the reaction. Do you think leaving NWA was a good decision? And would he have been bigger if he had stayed? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.